everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a new year and a new decade, and for the first video of 2020, that felt weird to say, I'm gonna reminisce about my last year in books. I read 49 books last year. 49. I was so close to 50. I was literally reading a book. I'm still reading it. I could have finished it, but I thought, nah, because there's always room for improvement. With 49, I could get 50, and that's good. My reading goal for 2020 is 60 books, but we're not talking about that at all. We're talking about all the books that I read in 2019. The first book that I read and finished in 2019 was The Last of August by Brittany Calavero, and I liked it. The very last book that I read in 2019 was The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. Finished it literally like a week ago. It's good. The book that took me the longest to read out of any book all year, you probably know this if you've watched any of my other videos where I talk about books that I've been reading, am reading, will read. Anyway, the book that took me the longest to read is Kingsbane by Claire Legrand, and it's good. It's big. It's big. The book that took me the shortest amount of time to read is actually a tie between two books. I read them both within a couple of hours, and I don't know which one I actually read fastest. So, The Princess Saves Herself in this one by Amanda Lovelace, which is a poetry book, and Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. That's poetry book and a graphic novel. I read these both in just a few hours because they're small, easy, nice reads. I liked them both. I actually really liked most of the books that I read this year. I do have a least favorite. I'm not going to talk about that one though. Right now I'm going to talk about my most disappointing. I could have made my least favorite my most disappointing, but honestly, I went into reading my least favorite not really vibing with the author, which I don't understand, but we'll talk about that later. But I did read a book that I was so looking forward to, and I did like it. I liked it. I just didn't like it as much as I wanted to. I just didn't connect with it, and I didn't understand and vibe with it as much as I wanted to. And that is Grim Lovelies by Megan Shepherd. It's a really good book. I have the sequel. I'm gonna read the rest of the story. It's just, I just wanted to like this book more than I did. I kept saying, wait, what? And not in a good way a lot of the times while reading this book. But still, it was a good book. But I wanted it to be more stars than I ended up giving it. And that's why it's my most disappointing one, because I had high expectations for my connection to this book, and I didn't connect with it. But it's still really good. Next, we're going to talk about my favorite find. Now, this is kind of in two segments, because I wanted to talk about the book that I found all by myself that I absolutely adored. So I'm going to talk about one that I picked up all by myself that I absolutely adored. Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I went on quite the Rainbow Rowell journey this past year, and this started it all. And this is why it's in two segments. I had heard people talk about this book. No one had specifically recommended it to me, I don't think, but people have said that people like me would like it. I do think I was told that I would probably like it. So I picked it up all by myself. No one actually told me, go read that book. So that's why it's part of my favorite finds, but it's not actually my find it all on my own book that I adored more than anything else this year. I adored this book. It was so awesome. Definitely one of my top 10 books I read this year, or top 10 books I read last year, but I didn't find this book on my own. I had heard about this book from other people. My absolute favorite find that I found all on my own. I did not know anything about this book until I saw it on the shelf, recognized the author, read the synopsis, and wanted to read it on my own, and I absolutely adored it. It made me cry. It made me laugh. It was the second saddest book I read all year, and it is Stranger Than Fanfiction by Chris Colfer, and I love this book so much. It's about a TV star who goes on a road trip with fans of his show, and that's all you really need to know about it. It is so moving, it is crazy, it is sad, and I adored every single second of this book, and I would recommend it in a heartbeat. Chris Colfer was on Glee, and that's how I recognized the name, because I have read some of the other books that he has written, and the other ones were middle grade, but this was the first YA of his that I found, and I loved it. Every single second of it. I loved it. I loved this book. It's so good. It's my favorite find of 2019. I love it so much. Read it. That was the second saddest book I read in 2019, and I think we all know what the saddest book I read in 2019 was. I literally started reading it and then had to put it away because I was already sad within the first 2 pages. And that is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I loved this book so much. I thought that the concept of it, the construction of it, the plot, and just the points of view that we see in the changing, ever-changing ways that things go in this book, I thought it was brilliant, and I loved it, and I cried buckets upon buckets at the end of this book. I definitely cried the most reading this book than any other book that I read this entire year, and it is so good. It is so good. Now is the book that made me laugh the most this year. I was gonna say the funniest book of this year, but honestly, I didn't read that many super funny, made to be funny books. I read a lot of books that made me absolutely laugh. But one of them made me laugh just a bit more, and you guys will not understand why, but I'm gonna tell you about it anyway. The Heart of a Vicar by Sarah M. Eden. I love this book. I call it the Holy Harry book. If you ever hear me say something about Holy Harry, I'm talking about this book. Last year, I went on a Sarah M. Eden journey, and I read all of the books that have to do with 2 families that she writes about a lot. They're not the only books that she has, but they're my favorite books that she has. And there's 2 series. There's one about the Lancaster siblings, and there's one about the Jonquill siblings, and the Lancasters and the Jonquills know each other. So they're all in a world, and I love them, but it's not like a series. It's 2 series, 1 world. Kind of like Cassandra Clare, where she has multiple series in the same world, and they all kind of like know each other. But anyway, this was the newest book that came out of the Jonquill brothers, and it is about Holy Harry. He is a vicar, and it made me laugh the most because the Jonquill brothers, they don't have any sisters. The Jonquill brothers are so funny. They're so ridiculously brothers, and whenever they get together and whenever they're with their mother, it's just like hilarious. I love it so much. This family is so funny. And so it wasn't really a funny book, but I could not stop laughing because we never really got to see a whole lot of Holy Harry before. But when we really get to understand Holy Harry in this book, I couldn't stop laughing. He's hilarious. He is awesome, and I love this book, and I love these brothers in that series, in that world, and it's just so funny. It's a romance book, but it's so funny. They're grown men, and they act like teenagers and children so many times. It's so funny. It's so funny. Next, I wanted to talk about my favorite series that I started this year, and I thought I had it nailed down, and I couldn't decide between the 2. So I'm just going to talk about my 2 favorite series that I started this year. One series I started and finished, and then the other series I just started because it's not finished yet, I hope. The series I started and finished this year is Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan, the entire series. I'm now on to the Heroes of Olympus series, but this is a series in and of its own, and I adored this series. I can't tell you how I feel about this series because I'm only on the 3rd book, but Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Man, I did not know what I was missing out on because I love Greek mythology. Like, ask anybody around me, and I love Greek mythology. I have never read these books in my entire life until last year. What was wrong with me? I don't know. I knew of their existence kind of, sort of. They never really were in my world, except for I knew people that had these books, but we never really talked about them, even though we talked about Greek mythology. Did we talk about these books? I don't know. But I picked them up this year because I had a different copy of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. I had a different copy of The Lightning Thief that I have had for years. And so this year I was just like, you know what? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read all these books that I haven't read before. And Percy Jackson was one of them. And I read it and I absolutely loved it. I devoured this series as fast as I could. It was so good. I love Percy Jackson. I love it all. It's great. It's so fun. It's so fun. I got my nephew addicted to these things. I really did. Now all we talk about is Greek mythology and Percy Jackson. I mean, they're great. They're great books. Now for a series I started and hasn't ended yet because the second book of the series just came out this year. I read the first book this year, the second book this year, and I'm assuming there's more. I haven't actually heard if there's more, but I'm assuming because of the way that the last book ended, there's going to be a series of books and not just two. Carry On, Wayward Son, Rainbow Rowell. It's the Simon Snow series. The first book and the second book. Of course I had to read Carry On after I read Fangirl. It's just like you can't not read Carry On after you've read Fangirl. Well, you could. But the way that I vibed with Fangirl, I couldn't not read the Simon Snow series after I read Fangirl. So, of course, I had to go and pick it up. This is a different copy than what I had this year because I gave that copy away to a friend. Because this story is fantastic. I love it so much. And I heard that there was a sequel coming out, and then I read the sequel, and I just like I need more, because that can't be it. That can't be the ending of the Simon Snow series. I need more. So I'm hoping more books come out, and I adore Simon and Baz and Penelope and Agatha, and just like I adore all of them. Well, okay. Agatha and Penelope sometimes get on my nerves, but Simon and Baz are just, they're too cute. They're too cute. Oh my gosh, chapter 61. I love this book and this series, and I am so excited to hear that there's more coming out, right? Because there's more? Please tell me there's more. I need more Simon Snow in my life. Now, what we have all really been waiting for, I'm going to talk about my least favorite and my favorite book of the year. My least favorite book of the year, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this. I wanted to like this book so much. I really did. An Abundance of Catherines by John Green. Well, I read Turtles All the Way Down in 2018, and it was okay. I didn't really vibe with it, but there was literally nothing wrong. I couldn't find anything really wrong with it. I mean, like, it just wasn't my cup of tea. So I wanted to try reading another John Green book, because I feel like if there was an author I should vibe with, it would be John Green. But I read An Abundance of Catherines, and again, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just, I didn't like it. I didn't like any of it. Any of it. It was just okay. And it's not the only book that I read about a road trip this year. I read at least 3 books about a road trip this year. And this was my least favorite. This was my least favorite book of the year. It was my lowest rated book of the year. And I had higher hopes for it, so I could have made it my most disappointing. I really don't know why I don't like John Green. I want to like John Green. His writing is great. I just can't vibe with it. And I don't know what's wrong with me. But it's just not my vibe, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to continue trying to read John Green to see if it's just I'm not used to his style or anything. I don't know. I'm gonna continue reading John Green. I'm not gonna give up on him. But, yeah, I really didn't like this book. I'm sorry that I didn't like this book. I wanted to like this book. But I didn't. Now, we're going to talk about my favorite book of 2019. And if you guys watched that one video with Caleb, y'all not going to be surprised by this answer unless you already forgot what I said in that video. Yeah, my favorite book of 2019 was, again, But Better by Christine Riccio. I don't actually know if that's how you say her name. Poland Banana Books. That's Poland Banana Books. That's who by Christine. Again, But Better came out this year. It was her debut novel, and I adored this book. Oh my gosh, I wanted to get this book so bad because everyone had been talking about it. So I got it, and I was legit nervous. I wanted to like it so much. I was legit so nervous that I wouldn't like it. But I started reading it, and I couldn't put it down. It was so good. The character, the setting, the dialogue, like just the plot. Oh my gosh, the plot was so great. I couldn't find really anything that I didn't like about this book. This book is so good. I would recommend it to everybody and anybody because it's just fan-freaking-tastic. It's so great. It's just like the best. It's my favorite book of 2019, and it's amazing, and I love it so much, and that's all I have to say. And that is it. Those are the books that I read in 2019, or some of them. I read 49 books, and those are all the ones that I really wanted to mention, because if I mentioned all 49 books, that's a really long video. That is all for this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and comment down below some things that you would put in categories out of the books that you read in 2019. And I hope you guys all have a great reading year this year. I hope you all reach your goal. And I hope you guys go check out my other socials because things have changed over there. So go check out those changes. And I hope you guys stick around because I have a lot of fun ideas for this year. I have a new setup, I have a new schedule, I have a new routine for all these videos, and I've been excited about these since like October. So I'm excited to get started, and I hope you guys stick around for this year, and I hope you guys have an amazing week and an amazing life, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!